What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to Straight Facts, a sports show that educates and entertains. I'm your boy, Jimmy J, joined by my guys, as always, Kyle Sirik, Stat Matt Robinson. That's what I'm going to do from now on, because I'm not going to ask you how you're doing. I'm just going to give you a Europe as a roll call. For Europe, what's going on? But we got a good episode, our last episode actually before the NFL draft. And since it is, we had to double back to my man, Matt Valdovinos, and bring him back on. Because when it comes NFL draft time, we know we got to tap in with one guy. So our guy Matt V is here. How you doing, man?
Always doing good, y'all. Excited to be back and talk ball. Always a good time. Love being with the homies, so I'm definitely excited.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We got to tap in because it's a big draft for a lot of teams, man. Not my team. Big draft for y'all. we cool. We cool with that. But that leads us into the facts straight at you. Only twice in NFL history have four or more quarterbacks been top 10 picks in the same draft. That was in 1959 and 2018. We have chance for that to happen this draft. And that leads us right into our first discussion point with you, Matt V, because we'll flash your mock draft. We'll put it on our social media, your full mock draft. But we're talking about just the quarterbacks right now because it's a really talented quarterback draft class. And the order of quarterbacks you have going off the board right now, you have Trevor Lawrence at 1, Zach Wilson number 2, Trey Lance the 3rd quarterback going off the board, and then Justin Fields 4, and then Mac Jones 5th. And I'm one of the guys who still believes in Justin Fields. I'm one of the guys who's surprised to see him continue to slide down these draft boards. And then you have him after, Trey Lance, after Zach Wilson. And I got to ask, first of all, why do you have these quarterbacks in that order? What are you seeing from Justin Fields?
So as far as the mock draft, it's my last mock draft, my last written mock draft of the year. And with all my mock drafts, I always try to emulate what I anticipate to happen in the NFL draft. Take in all of the rumors, take in all of the information, talk to any sources, talk to anyone I can to try and figure out what teams are looking at. So there's a couple weird picks in this mock overall that I necessarily wouldn't make, right? Like I have the Broncos trading back into the middle of the first round and picking up Najee Harris. If I was the GM of Denver, that's not a decision that I would make.
Right.
It's just that from what I've been told, they really, really like Najee Harris in Denver. They just don't like the idea of Najee Harris at 9. So they're motivated to move back if they don't go get a quarterback. So with Justin Fields falling down to 7, that is not me critiquing Justin Fields at all. I have Justin Fields as my 2nd highest rated quarterback. And the space between Justin Fields and my 3rd highest rated quarterback is actually bigger than the space that I have between Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence. So I have, I love Justin Fields.
Okay.
Yeah, you're gonna fit right in because that's how we feel.
There's no,
you don't get it.
Yeah, he's comfortably in my QB2. The Dan Orlovsky stuff of he's not does he want to be great? Is he a hard worker? All BS. None of that is accurate.
Yeah.
Justin Fields is the person you want on your football team. Now, I can understand people who evaluate the play and say that I prefer Zach Wilson or I prefer Trey Lance for various reasons. I think Fields probably does have the worst arm of the top 4 guys. It just so happens that these top 4 guys are really, really good, right? So it's just, I don't think Justin Fields has a bad arm as far as NFL standards by any means. I think he would still have a top 15 arm first day in the league, but I think Trey Lance is a guy who has a top 1% arm, right? A Pat Mahomes, a Josh Allen level arm, and Aaron Rodgers type arm. I think Trevor Lawrence is close to that. He would be a top 5 to 8 guy from day one. And then I think Zach Wilson and Justin Fields are pretty close where they have the arm to make the NFL throws, but they're not going to be completely changing games with the way they're able to locate footballs down the field.
Yeah.
One of my problems with Zach Wilson is that when you watch tape of him, the pockets he have were so clean.
Yeah,
he had
I don't like
no
Zach
adversity
Wilson,
at all.
Comparatively.
Yeah.
Now, so with Zach Wilson, I agree. He had a really, so people try to knock Trey Lance for his level of competition. Zach Wilson was not playing future NFL superstars.
Yeah, his hardest game was Coastal.
Right? And he wasn't great against Coastal, right? So I do think that right, Justin Fields goes in and dominates Clemson and outperforms Trevor Lawrence, who's the undisputed number 1 pick, right? So it's, some of that is, now I can understand you see what Zach Wilson can do out of the pocket. He has shades of Mahomes, sure, but my issue is Zach Wilson's a lot smaller than Pat Mahomes is. His arm is not as good as Pat Mahomes is. And like you said, he's playing with such a big pocket, but he's not winning from within the pocket. For me, it's hard to evaluate a player who's going to sit in a clean pocket for 4 seconds and then run around, play backyard football for 3 seconds, and then throw a dime 60 yards down the field. Yes, it's cool. It looks great. But that dime is not getting completed at near the rate you're hitting in BYU as you are in the NFL, especially when you're playing the Jets, right? His first game might be against Bill Belichick in the Patriots defense. His first game might be against Brian Flores in the Dolphins defense, right? That's a lot harder than Coastal Carolina, I promise. And so for the quarterbacks, my quarterback rankings are Lawrence, Fields, Space, Lance, Wilson, Space, Jones. And then the rest are a wash. Take 2 of them on day 2 if you really want. The rest I'm not even drafting. I don't like Kyle Trask. I don't like guys like that. So
why are you low on Mac Jones?
So for Mac, my thing is I think Mac's going to be a good quarterback, sure. Maybe you get Derek Carr. Maybe you get Kirk Cousins, ideally, right? I think both those guys have a lot better arms than Mac does. But maybe you do get a guy who's in that 15 to 10 range as far as like a top quarterback. He's a decent starter, right? You can play him. You can have a good team around him, and maybe you can win games. And if you asked me whether or not I think it's plausible that Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco could win a Super Bowl with Mac Jones, I do think it's possible, right? They almost did one. They almost did one with Jimmy G. But I think it would be a lot easier if you have one of Justin Fields or Trey Lance. I think it would be a lot easier.
You think Mac Jones and Jimmy G are interchangeable like that?
Comparable. I think they're comparable. I think what you get from Mac Jones will be close to what Jimmy G is, just he doesn't have the same injury history that Jimmy G does.
Yeah. So I actually have a question about these quarterbacks because your mock, as you said, you're taking it what you think will happen.
Exactly.
So you have Justin Fields going the 4th one. And from my side, all I'm hearing is he's not the leader, right? What are the reasons that everyone is so low on Justin? Like, what happened?
So the big reason I think that people are low on Justin Fields is because Ohio State is not viewed as a pro-style offense where you're really challenging the intellect of the quarterback, right? North Dakota State does run a heavy pro-style offense. Trey Lance is getting the looks that he's going to see in the NFL. Same thing for Trevor Lawrence at times, but Clemson can really dial back the details sometimes. And that's when Trevor Lawrence was really struggling, was when they were running essentially like a high school offense. Nothing complicated, nothing really, really fast-paced. It's what they were doing early last season a ton of. So I don't think people want to call Justin Fields a one-read quarterback, but it's just I don't think that's accurate. I think he's a little bit of a perfectionist. So when he's going through progressions, maybe he will stick to that first read a little too often. But I don't think it's because he can't progress from read to read. I think it's because he knows it's the correct read. It's just not developing in the time he wants it to. His pocket presence isn't great because Ohio State's offensive line has always been really good. But on that same token, this dude's like 6'3", 230 pounds. So if there's a unblocked blitzer, 99% of the time that's going to be a cornerback, like a nickelback. I'll take my chances with your nickelback tackling Justin Fields, right? I'll take that chance with that quarterback presence.
And that's a point that I make about Justin Fields, to where, past 2 years he's led the Big Ten in touchdowns. And you go 2 years ago, if you count in the rushing touchdowns, he had 51 total touchdowns and 3 interceptions. So he is the dual threat, but the man could throw the ball too. I don't get it. You're making good points about Trey Lance that I never really thought about. I'm not a huge Trey Lance believer, but I don't even take Wilson over Fields, man.
I don't like either. I think if you're talking about the players more likely to bust, I think Lance and Wilson are substantially higher than. But it is an NFL league that has commonly been predicated on the thought process of upside.
Do you think? Right? Do you think Lance is getting a little overinflated because they're playing right now? Or do you think that hasn't been a factor?
Not necessarily. Lance isn't playing right now.
I was like, didn't they only play one game?
I was going to say, yeah. I don't think Lance is at NDSU anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, it's my bad.
Yeah, no, you're fine. So guys like Dylan Radins, too, their left tackle, he's not playing either. Any guys, I don't think they were allowed to play if they declared for the 2021 NFL draft.
No.
I'm not 100% sure, but I just don't think they are.
No, that sounds right. I don't know why they would play.
Right.
But yeah, with the guys, it's pretty much just Trey Lance is in the mold of the Pat Mahomes, the Josh Allens, right? Where maybe you are banking on some upside, but that's a former MVP and was an MVP contender. And then Pat Mahomes and Josh Allen were both MVP contenders last year, right? So it's like you see the thought process why. With Mac Jones, it's just if you look at the rate at which immobile quarterbacks have hit lately, especially in the first round, it's just not great, right? Yeah. So that's where I'm starting to like worry, because I think they can be good quarterbacks. It's just that he's never going to be Tom Brady, right? That's the thing that people want to say. They want to be like, oh, well, Mac Jones, Tom Brady was succeeding in the NFL. Okay, that's great. Tom Brady's the greatest quarterback of all time. Right. We're not going to compare a one-year college starter, which people also don't want to talk about with Mac Jones. People will be real quick to bring out that Trey Lance only started 1 year at NDSU. Mac Jones only started 1 year at Alabama. And so,
but put up one of the most
where's the difference?
Prolific offensive numbers in
Trey Lance. Trey Lance had maybe the greatest year in FCS history. Dude had like 3,000 pass yards, 1,000 rush yards, and like 35 total touchdowns on like 7 turnovers or something.
But then Mac Jones But then Mac Jones had one of the best in FBS.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's fair. But what if Trey Lance was playing at that Alabama teams, right? So it's and I think Mac Jones would be really good if he was playing at NDSU. So I just think that's where the separation is.
I think you made a good point about how the dual threat quarterbacks are kind of taking over.
Yeah, and that's just the way the league is moving. It's just athleticism and space and play. That's just how it is. It's hard to be a great quarterback if you don't have that threat of the run anymore, just because defenses are so used to that quarterback, to playing these guys who are going to make off-script plays, and that's how it is. Defense continues to evolve, so the offensive positions have to continue to get better.
That's fact.
That's a good point. Yeah.
That's fact. All right, let's move on.